if you don't know that. Gary back there does your websites. Carney does a little bit of everything for us. Keeps our historical knowledge alive, right? Joanne and Sharon are both in different spots, but both in Florida. So they'll hear about this later on. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Just a reminder, a couple of reminders. I'm way faster talking than Sharon. This will be over in like 45 seconds. I don't know if you've seen our website, but Gary has done an extraordinary job on our website. It has videos and pictures and just so much history and information. It's an extraordinary site. We are going to be opening our museum as of June 7th. It's going to be Wednesday and Saturday, so if you have some time to volunteer, we can't open it without volunteers. So there are sign-ups out there over on the tables. We have tons of pictures over there. We have Oddfellow pictures at our museum committee. Jim Goring is here right now. That's usually Joanne, Jim, and Richard Maddox. Do a lot in the museum, everything in the museum, so I have stolen all of their stuff and brought it here for you to take a look at tonight. Remember, membership, we can't keep going without membership, so if you have time and a couple bucks, you can join. There's paperwork over there. We are also going to steal an idea, a wonderful idea. May 23rd is our next meeting, and Carney's going to be our speaker. And one of the other local historical societies is doing a show and tell and inviting their members to bring, one or two little things from their town. So we're going to start at 6 on May 23rd, and you can bring something from your history with Hyde Park to share, and then Carney will begin to speak at 7 o'clock. And we'll put a flyer together and send that out in email. There'll be a lot more information, but I think it'll be pretty exciting to share all of our Hyde Park history together. And, any questions? One last thing. All right, so I'm sure you read it, Facebook, website, and emails about who's here this evening. It's Reverend Dr. Mark D. Isaacs. He's the pastor of St. Paul's Lutheran Church. He's an adjunct professor of history at the Culinary. Among other things, Dr. Isaacs is a fraternity society enthusiast, is a charter member of Washington Irving Independent Order of Oddfellows, number 20 in Saugerties, New York. And he's got a great presentation prepared for us. So let's welcome him. Thanks, guys.
Well, good evening, everyone. We can unpack here a little bit here. All right, first of all, it's an honor to be here. The best history is local history. Yeah, this is great. I've been living in Rhinebeck since 1992, so I spent a lot of time studying local history. I'm a member of the Sons of the Union War Veterans, Colonel George Lamb Willard Camp in Troy, New York, and so I spend a lot of time doing Civil War things, the 128th, 150th. So it's an honor to be here tonight. So let's get to work here. Tonight's topic is the Oddfellows. The Oddfellows. And it's pretty interesting. Actually, can you dim the lights? Yeah, you can hit the lights.
Both or one?
Yeah, that's all right.
That's good.
If anybody dozes off, I'll just throw a book at you. I'm used to this. Okay. All right. All right, welcome. Hearty welcome to our discussion tonight. And I love the artwork that goes along with these things. I can't stand it.
Well, most of us, we're all hard to hear.
You can't hear me? All right, I'll use the microphone. I'll use the microphone then. All right, welcome, and again, this is the discussion on the Oddfellows tonight. And I'm a pastor of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Rhinebeck, and it was founded in 1760. And the current building that we're in was built in 1802. Come up sometime, have a Rhinebeck meeting up there, and I'll give you the grand tour of the place. We have Revolutionary War soldiers buried in our cemetery. It's quite a place. And here's a great picture on a cloudy, stormy night. This is from the front church of the parsonage. My wife is a great photographer, and she takes pictures of the building in different times, snow and spring and so on. I'm also an adjunct professor at the CIA. So I've been an adjunct professor in this area for about 25 years. I taught at Marist and Ulster Community College, and then now I'm at the CIA. And I spent a lot of time explaining to people that it's not the one in Langley, it's the one in Hyde Park. And we tap kegs, not phones. That's the so, and I really love the CIA. Most people think that all they do is baking and the chef program. That's an associate's degree, but you can get a 4-year bachelor's degree there, and you can do hospitality management, business management, and they use the same books as Marist College. Marist College is $42,000 room, board, and tuition, and so is the CIA. And the difference is the CIA kids actually can make a living when they get out of there. They have that practical experience. And I'm not kidding, I really love the kids. They're right there, like blue collar kids, a lot of the first generation going to college. I really love them a lot. And they're from all over the world. This last semester that ended last week, I had 4 students from Saudi Arabia, I have students from Korea, India, California, all kinds of exotic places, right? And I'm starting back tomorrow. So I took a couple years off during COVID because they made me wear a mask, and I can't teach because my face is part of the way I communicate. It's performance art, you know? So I'm glad to be back. This is my first semester back since the COVID drama. So CIA is a good place. And this is what I see when I give my lectures, you know? I'm not used to having my audience do eye contact with me. With the online learning stuff, the kids, they all have their laptops and their iPhones, and they're all like heads down, and you can't engage them. I tried setting my hair on fire, I don't know what to do. So tomorrow I'm gonna tell them no computers and no iPhones, and you're gonna have to like listen to me. So it's gonna kill them, I can't. I wrote 4 books. The one book that you might find to be interesting, I wrote a book on the 250th anniversary of St. Paul's Wurttemberg. It's all about the Palatine Germans and how they came here. It's pretty interesting stuff, actually. It's local history. All right, we started Washington Irving Lodge, number 20, a couple years ago. In the middle of COVID, a great time to start a new group. There had been Oddfellows activity in Saugerties prior to us starting. The old lodge disbanded about maybe 10 years ago. So we're trying to get it restarted again. And it's a lot of fun being in on the ground floor. We're a charter member. In fact, I picked the name Washington Irving because, you know, he's, you know, Sunnyside, down the train track here, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Rip Van Winkle, you know, so we have a lot of connections with Washington Irving. And he's an interesting guy too. I'll have to come back and talk about him sometime. All right, what is the name Oddfellows anyway? I'm a member of the Ancient Free and Accepted Masons for the last 40 years. And Masons they go back to the guilds that built the cathedrals in the Middle Ages. And people couldn't read and write then, so when you go to a new work site, you're free to move around, you're not a serf bound to the soil, and you would do a certain handshake like this, a certain grip and a password, meaning you were a master mason and you were entitled to the wages of that particular pay level. Enter apprentice, fellow craft, master mason. Well, the Oddfellows started in England as a guild, not of stonemasons, but of odd professions. People that are like, you know, brewers or tanners or coopers or cobblers. They didn't have enough of those men in their particular village, so they bound it together. They're kind of the miscellaneous category, and it's a fraternal organization. And I'll talk about what that is in about 2 seconds here. So Oddfellows, it means people from different crafts get together, and they're bound together, and they want to have the benefits of a fraternal organization. And what is the creed? It's good to study creeds of things because it's like the basic statement of what they believe. And it's genuine friendship, love, truth, and universal brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God, and you know, to try to spread understanding to all people. This is a really good thing. You know, it's easy to hate somebody that lives over there that you don't talk to, but when you sit down and break bread and talk to people, all of a sudden you find out, hey, they're sort of like us. So it's a way of breaking down walls and barriers. There are 4 degrees in the Oddfellow structure. The first is the initiatory degree. That's the light degree. The second degree is the friendship degree. That's the pink degree. The love degree is the blue degree, and the truth degree is the scarlet degree. And so one of their symbols are the 3 links, like a chain linked together, and it's FLT. It's friendship, love, and truth. Okay? Yeah, here's their logo, and you see this on tombstones, and so we're seeing that in a couple minutes. Oh, and let me go back to this. This is called the Independent Order of Oddfellows, and they started in Baltimore, Maryland. Thomas Whiteley, he came from, he was a blacksmith, and he came to Baltimore, and he was an Oddfellow in England, and he started Odd Fellowship in America. So they just did the 200th anniversary a couple years ago, 2019. So they've been around a long time. All right, now we get to sing. So take out your song sheet. This is one of the things that's really fun when you do a lodge meeting. There's a lot of singing and walking around involved. So I thought, rather than me telling you to sing, you're going to sing. So the opening ode is what we're going to sing. And first, we're going to, it's set to the tune of What a Friend We Have in Jesus, okay? And what does that sound like? I'll try to scratch out sing a few lines here. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Okay, ready? So the opening ode is set to the tune of What a Friend We Have in Jesus. Okay, here we go. I see a lot of song sheets that are not open here. You get it? Follow along here. Yeah, it's on the screen too, okay? All right, you can do either way. Ready? Members of our friendly order, honor him, assert her sway, all within our sacred border, her high commands obey, join our fellowship of brothers, in the song of truth and love. Leave disputes and strife to others. In harmony must move. Verse 2. On the two reports in Mike's house, worthy subjects let us prove. Strong the chain that here unites us, with friendship, love, and truth. In our hearts find and cherish, may these feelings ever bloom, failing not when life has perished, living beyond the tomb. Oh, fantastic. You people are really good. No, you can see how this brings the group together. When we came in this room, we all hated each other. But now because we're singing, we all love each other. No, it's kind of a neat thing. This is in the opening ritual. That's part you sing the opening ode like this. Then, what's that?
Last year we had a guy that danced.
Oh, that's good. All right, I was hoping you'd ask. All right. Also, Oddfellows are very patriotic, and we do the pledge to the flag. And what happens when you do 3 knocks like this? It means everybody has to stand up. All rise. And we have an American flag here, so we're going to do the pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 1 knock means you sit down. You know, most people don't do the pledge to the flag these days, and it's good to go to an occasion where you actually do the pledge to the flag. So that's why I kind of like being an Oddfellow, and we do this in the Masons also. Well, welcome, right? Odd Fellowship. So, Odd Fellowship was a huge deal. In 1920, there were more Oddfellow members in New York than there were Freemasons. It was huge. This is the Oddfellows Temple in Albany, New York. And one of their symbols is an all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye, and of course that's the eye of God watching out for you. What is the commandment of the Oddfellows is visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. That's pretty good stuff. And the mission of Odd Fellowships is to improve and elevate the character of mankind. Now, who's this? This is an outstanding book that everybody should run out and read. I don't get a commission on this, I really should. It's From Mutual Aid to the Welfare State by David T. Beto. He's a retired professor from Texas. And I read this book about 10 years ago, and I was very impressed with his work. Now, the question is, what happened to the Odd Fellows? What happened to the Kiwanis Club, the Lions Club, the VFW, the American Legion? What happened to all these groups? Well, what happened is their primary mission shifted and changed. And so David T. Beto has stories in here that are absolutely astonishing. There's a group called the Knights of Tabor in Mississippi. And in Mississippi, these are former slaves. So because of segregation, this is like 1880, 1890, the doctors wouldn't treat them. If you were black, you had to go in the back door of the hospital and bring your own sheets and your own bedpans and all this sort of thing. And so what they did, the ministers in the area got together and they said they found a couple of really smart kids and they sent them to college and they sent them to medical school and they came back and they founded their own hospital, Tabor Hospital. And for about 75 years, the Knights of Tabor, it's a fraternal organization. They collected membership money from their members and they took care of their own. And it's a fantastic thing. And so this is the purpose, this is what mutual aid societies are for, to benefit their members. And that's what the Odd Fellows did. Fraternalism, what is it? It's a network of voluntary associations. And it's mutual aid for members. And it has rights and responsibilities. And it holds people accountable for their actions. And it builds a civil society. And again, what's one of the problems we have today? Oh, I'm homeless. Okay, you give them money, or you give them, and what happens? It just feeds their addiction. In these fraternal organizations, they know your character. They know that if we give you money, it's going to lead to a bad result, and they hold you accountable. When you go to an AA meeting, right? They hold you accountable for your behavior. That's extremely important, right? Giving money to people that don't have money is not the solution to the problem. They need love and they need a brother or a sister to raise them up and to deal with them on a one-to-one basis. It's decentralization, in other words, right? So these fraternal societies did this in the 1880s, 1890s, 1900. And the Odd Fellows especially, bury the dead is one of their things. They have cemeteries all over the country, especially in the western part of the United States. You're from Rhinebeck. The prospects aren't looking too good here. There's free land out in Kansas or Nebraska or something, and you go out there, and your family's left here. What happens if you die out there? Well, your Oddfellow brothers will bury you in the Oddfellow cemetery. That's one of the benefits of being a member of the Oddfellows. So, who's Alexis de Tocqueville? He wrote Democracy in America. Fantastic book. One of the sections in this book, he's traveling around the country. 1834, he's touring Eastern State Prison, which, you know, that was his mission, but he talked to normal people, went to little towns, and he was astonished at how many groups there were, and that everybody was a member of some organization or some group, or sometimes multiple groups, and the voluntary organizations are what build a civil society in a republic. This is an interesting, I wish I could reproduce this for you. This is from that Fulton County newspaper site, you know that one that got old newspapers from New York State, the McKeon names. It's a great source of research. This is one, it's from the Evening Enterprise in Poughkeepsie from June 19th, 1915, okay? So it's one page and it's fraternal notes. So this is one particular day in 1915 in Poughkeepsie. They had several temperance organizations, including the Women's Temperance Christian Union. The women own their own building in Poughkeepsie. And again, what does temperance mean? Temperance doesn't mean prohibition, it means moderation, right? So they had temperance organizations. They also had 3 Oddfellows lodges. They had a German lodge, and they had Poughkeepsie Lodge and Folk Hill Lodge. They also had military organizations, including the Grand Army of the Republic, the GAR. They had a 19th Regiment meeting. It's a local militia. They had all kinds of Masonic organizations meeting, and for ladies and for men. And they had the Moose Lodge, they had the Elks Lodge, and they had Knights of Pythias also met in Poughkeepsie. So Poughkeepsie had all these organizations meeting. And again, what do? They do fraternal things like this. So Alexis de Tocqueville is astonished at this. Hands are full here. All right. One of the things they did, and this is really great, it's called the lodge practice, or lodge doctors. What does that mean? What did they do before they had Obamacare or Medicaid, or what did they do? Here's what they did. You belong to a lodge. The lodge gets together and they interview a bunch of local doctors, and then they vote on which doctor they're going to hire for the year. They give them a contract. Everybody pays like $100 or something. That's why doctors don't make house calls anymore. They used to make house calls. And the lodge doctor idea got put aside. In 1910, the Flexner Report, they eliminated proprietary medical schools, and they got rid of the practice of lodge doctors. But it's a way of getting medical care for people who are like workers, working people. And this is a widely spread thing. So all these lodges and organizations would have lodge doctors. And again, visiting the sick is a very important thing. Most people didn't go to the hospital when they were sick. They'd be in bed and the doctor would come to their house and treat them. And that was one of the benefits of being in an organization like this. The Oddfellows also have old folks' homes. My father's 92. I was in Oklahoma yesterday visiting him for a week. And my mother died about a year and a half ago. And what does he need? He doesn't need medicine. He doesn't need food. But what does he miss? He misses companionship and friendship. Something like the Oddfellows home would have been a great thing. This would have been a beautiful thing. To be in a building or be in an institution that's run by the brothers of your organization, what a great thing this would have been. And again, it's more than just physically taking care of your physical needs, it's your spiritual and mental health that really is a problem, So this was in Stuyvesant, New York, up north of Hudson. This is one of the homes they had. This is one on Long Island, right? An Oddfellows home. And this one is in Ithaca. Right? These are like huge, it was a huge enterprise. And this is in Lockport, New York. This one was also very large. This is the dining room. I could see my father eating in a place like this. I'd like to eat in a place like this, right? I mean, what a great thing. Eat there with people you know, I mean, what a wonderful thing. And then they also ran orphanages. Remember, care of widows and orphans is a very important thing. What happened to all the orphanages? Well, they're gone. Why? Because we put kids in foster care now. So instead you meet a kid who's been in like 6 or 7 foster homes and so on. Well, would it be better to be in an orphanage, right? I know a guy who grew up in a Masonic orphanage in Ohio, and it's a wonderful thing. They paid his way to college. It's a great thing. The Moose Lodge has something called Moose Heart in Illinois. It's called a child city, and that's still going really strong. And those kids, they have an elementary school, they have high school, and the kids, they pay their way to college. They've saved how many lives this way? It's a beautiful thing. So this is in Philadelphia. They had cemeteries, big, complicated, complex organizations. This cemetery was, when the Oddfellows started going down in the 1940s, 1950s, the city of Philadelphia seized the property and put in a housing project. They moved all the bodies out. And they did the same thing in Albany with the Albany Rural Cemetery. They moved like church cemeteries and, So they had cemeteries. It was a huge thing. I was here yesterday, Noble, Oklahoma. It's south of Norman, and the Oddfellows have a huge cemetery there that's still going very well, and it's well kept and well financed. So this is the Oddfellows Cemetery. What happened to the Oddfellows? Well, this is what happened to the Oddfellows, the Great Depression, okay? What's the Great Depression? 1929 to 1941? How bad was it? 25% unemployment among male head of household. Well, what does that mean? Your father doesn't work for 11 years. Right? And it had a profound impact on things, and it literally destroyed all of these fraternal organizations. Not just, they lost membership, and when you lose membership, the money doesn't come in, you can't afford to keep the orphanage going or the old folks home, and then the state would take them over. So we've lost that. So it's like we've shifted in our society. That's what David T. Bito says, that we've gone from mutual aid societies to a state-run social welfare system. And it destroyed the old voluntary system that was in place up until the Great Depression. The Great Depression is like a transition in American history. So in the New Deal. And we're going to see Franklin Roosevelt here in a second. So don't go away. So we have, instead of fraternalism, we have paternalism. What does that mean? It's taxpayer supported. The state administers all programs and benefits, and you get state aid. And there's all rights. Everybody has a right, and guess what? There's very little responsibility. There's no accountability. There's like, what are you doing with that money we're giving you, right? So it undermines the civic civil society component, and Bito again writes about this. There's a disconnect to accountability, right? Again, giving money. I was in Norman, Oklahoma. You know, Oklahoma, I was there yesterday. What's the problem? They have homeless people all over the place. You think a place like Oklahoma will be doing? No. What's their problem? It's not that they're homeless. They don't need a home. If you left your house and gave them their problem is a litany of problems, and it's usually like crystal meth, heroin, fentanyl. You know, they'd rather live outside and do drugs and alcohol because that way they're not accountable to anybody, right? But if you're in some kind of an organization, they'll say, well, we're not going to give you money because you're going to drink it up or drug it up, right? So accountability, there's a disconnect here. Money is not your problem, right? It's a spiritual problem, right? Do you know the Greek word for the word pharmakia, pharmacy, pharmakia, right? What does it mean? It's a Greek word, it means sorcery. So people that do drugs and alcohol are looking for a chemically induced mystical experience. There's a spiritual component to that. And when the state just gives you money, it destroys that aspect of it, you know? And instead we become a political society. So what happened to all these fraternal organizations? Well, the page turned, right? And you can point to the Great Depression. That's probably a good spot for that, okay? What's this? Bowling alone, right? So these are my kids here. It makes my head explode, right? You walk around campus, and there's like kids like this. There's like 5 of them walking along, and they're all like this. It's like, talk to the kid next to you for a change, a live person, right? So the technology that we have has like destroyed the personal touch, right? What do you need when you get into trouble? You have somebody send you a text message? I'm thinking about it, bro. Or do you need somebody to put their arm around you and go, look, we love you and we're with you no matter what? See, the personal touch is gone. And Bowling Alone, this is a book that came out in 2000, like, the bowling leagues are all gone, right? My parents were in a bowling league like in the early 60s, you know, and that was the big social activity. Well, nobody does that anymore. Instead, we sit at home in our parents' basement playing video games all day long, and then you talk to the young people, what's their problem? I have social anxiety disorder. Well, because you're in your basement all the time. You have to get out and talk to live people and learn how to communicate, right? So this is what my college students look like. Not tomorrow, though. They're going to get it now. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this. I won't be able to sleep tonight. What was this? Dale Carnegie. This is probably the most important book of the 20th century. It came out in 1936 in the middle of the Great Depression. What does Dale Carnegie say? Take an active interest in other people. Yeah, do you ever like go places and talk to people? They want to talk about themselves, but they never say like, what's it like living in Rhinebeck? You know, what's it like being a Lutheran minister? No, they never ask you about you. Well, the way that you get people to like you is to do what? Become genuinely interested in other people. Are they interested in other people? Not particularly. They're interested in video games or looking at like this, right? Taking a smile. Is that an interesting thing? Yeah, it's like my kids, I walk around, they're like 19 years old. It looks like they're going to kill themselves or something. They're like depressed walking around this way. Look, it's downhill from here, kid. The way you look now, it's all downhill. Wait till you get to be my age. So you have to smile. Remember the person's name, right? Remember people's names. Be a good listener, an active listener. That's what happens when you multitask. You can't participate in life, right? You want to be an active listener. Talk in terms of the other person's interest. Ask them about them, right? And make the other person feel important. Do you like to be felt? I like to be made to feel important, even if I'm not. That's a nice thing to do. right? But these are like lost arts here that go on, that ended along with the fraternal stuff, you know? This is the kind of thing you learn. So what are these? These are like just some random pictures of Oddfellows members. And these are collars, you know, Masons wear aprons. Oddfellows in America wear these collars and sashes. So these are different ranks of people in the lodge. Now these are the gray here, you know. Remember, three knocks mean you stand and one means you sit down. So they have, this is what they teach you, you know, etiquette, right? And here, these are Oddfellows lodges in the West. Again, remember, they left their families, they went out west, they're pioneers, and if you die out there, you're gonna get a pauper's burial, which is considered like a worst case scenario, potter's field. So instead, you'll be loved by your brothers and they'll take care of you when you're dead. That's pretty neat. This is some of they do ritual, you know, they act out plays, a lot of them are based on Bible stories, like Jonathan and David, love, right? David and Goliath, right? Moses in the burning bush, the Ark of the Covenant, and it's not a religion, like Freemasonry is not a religion or a substitute for a religion, but it gets you reading parts of the Bible you would never think about. That's why I like being a Mason and an Oddfellow, right? There's a lot of overlap in there, so it's kind of neat, you know? Here, and some of there are also, if you know about Masonry, the Knights Templar of the Commandery is the uniform unit of Masonry. Well, the Oddfellows have a uniform unit also. It's called the Patriarchs Militant. And a lot of these are Civil War veterans that came back and they wanted a military thing. This guy looks pretty impressive. He looks like a North Korean general or something. Ribbons and everything, you know. And yeah. All right, now let's talk about local stuff here. Again, local history. This is the Dutchess District in 1913. So they had 13 lodges in this area. And these are by number. Lafayette Lodge number 18 is in Wappinger. It's still functioning. It's the oldest lodge in this district. It goes back to 1838. And then you have Poughkeepsie Lodge, Evergreen Lodge in Fishkill, Rhinebeck Lodge in Rhinebeck Lodge used to be on East Market Street, Park Lodge in Hyde Park. I'll show you a picture in a minute. Falk Hill Lodge, and then Christian Lodge in Red Hook. That one closed about maybe 8 years ago. Millerton. All right, Alder Lodge, that's the German Lodge in Poughkeepsie. Remember, we used to have a large German community living in Poughkeepsie. Dutchess Lodge in Stormville, Phillips and Pine Plains Lodge, right? Pine Plains Lodge is still functioning. And the lodges are numbered by order of their age, you know. So when we started Washington Irving Lodge, we got number 20. It's an extinct number, you know, from like the lodge disbanded like 100 years ago. So we started the number back up again, so that's pretty good. All right, what's this? This is Rhinebeck. Okay, you know where Skinny's is? And I think it's Village Pizza now. Well, that's the Oddfellows building. So they met upstairs and they rented the stores downstairs. That's a pretty good idea. And here it is. You look closely, you can see it has Oddfellows insignia up here. I think it's still on the building. And across the street in Rhinebeck is where the DAR building was, and the next door then was where the old Masonic building used to be. So. The geniuses sold that building in 1965, and they built the one up a little bit on 9G. So they owned the whole building. They could have been renting out all of the stores and making a fortune. They could be giving you money, you know? But no, they had to have a new building, you know? This is the Lafayette Lodge in Fishkill. Go down there and see those guys. They're very nice. The problem with them is that there's a stairway that starts here and ends up here. So it's like, you know, 300 steps, so bring your oxygen tank with you when you go. And this is how they get rid of all the weak Oddfellows. You can make it up the stairs. And this building is really old, and I was there 2 weeks ago. They did the initiatory degree. It's kind of fun to see them do it, you know. And this is Lafayette Lodge, a picture. Again, they used to have like huge memberships, like 300-400 members in a local lodge. That's why they could do things like have an orphanage, and they also had unemployment insurance. So if you lost your job, they'd give you like $4 a week, which is a lot of money back then, to keep you going until you could get, you know, it's like it's a social welfare thing, except it's volunteer membership. It's a brilliant thing. And again, Alexis de Tocqueville. This is Falk Hill Lodge in the Poughkeepsie Rural Cemetery, and incidentally, we're really fortunate here. I'm in the Sons of the Union War Veterans, and we have GAR graves up at the Albany Rural Cemetery. It's shameful. the politicians stole the money like 50 or 60 years ago, and there's like weeds growing up like this. And Chester A. Arthur, the president, is buried there. General Steinwehr, the Civil War general from Gettysburg, is buried there. And it's like they let it go. And Oaklawn Cemetery in Troy is another one. That's where Colonel George Lamb Woodard is buried. And we're trying to like put money in and restore it, you know. But the Poughkeepsie Rural Cemetery is extremely well run. So, I mean, I'm not kidding you. That's like one of the few things in Poughkeepsie that actually works. So I would volunteer, you know. It's an unbelievable cemetery. So the Oddfellows, Falk Hill Lodge, has an Oddfellows plot there. So you find that here's the marker, and this is what the inside of the Falk Hill Lodge looked like in Poughkeepsie. And yeah, well, you can see this would be kind of neat, you know, like, you know, you walk around, you do the ritual, you know, the people sit at the sidelines. The Grand Noble is like the worshipful master in the Oddfellows Lodge, like they're the ones that lead the lodge. And from here's just a blurb. They're going to be meeting, so this stuff would be in the newspaper, like the Poughkeepsie paper would have these announcements. This, I think, is the location of the Falk Hill Lodge. So this is First Lutheran in Poughkeepsie, and this building is here. I think it was right in this area here. And they tore them down, you know. This is Park Lodge number 203 in Hyde Park, which is right up the street here. And now it's Cranberries, it's a restaurant there, okay? Well, they would rent the downstairs. This is a store, grocery store or whatever. The upstairs was where the lodge rooms were. And the building looks pretty much the same. And here it is now. I took this picture. It's hard to get it. Michael did? I don't need a microphone anyway. These things, I'll be happy to. Right? Now I can wave my arms around now. This is great. I'm liberated, right? No, so it's really hard to get a good picture because they have the street lights and everything hanging down there, you know. What's this? This is a picture that I'm depending on you to figure out who these people are. This is Park Lodge members, and I found this in my research. I'm not even sure what year it is. I'm guessing it's maybe 1938, something like that. And there's two books over here, and of course, I bet the names aren't written down on the pictures in there, are they? So that's a good job for you. Go through those albums and figure out who these people are and write their names on the pictures. And then go home and do the same to all your family pictures, you know? I was out visiting my parents again. My mother died. Well, that was her job when she retired. Unfortunately, she got sick and died. So now we've got thousands of pictures. And who's this? That could be, Knut Svensson. That could be, no, that can't be him. No, it's not good. So you want to label all these pictures there. So look at this one. Does anybody know him? He was the Noble Grand of the year, evidently. Looks like a good guy to know. So that's your job. You got to figure out who these people are and label the picture.
Right.
And these are some. This is in Union Cemetery, right over here. Okay, which needs help. You should go help out over there, right? And you can tell because they've got the 3 rings on the cemetery, the 3 links. That means it's an Oddfellow burial. And so you can look these up. A lot of them on Find a Grave. They do a good job. And here, this is another one. He's a member of Park Lodge. Now, here's where it gets really fun. Poughkeepsie was the site of 2 Oddfellow Grand Lodge sessions, and it's a huge thing. 4,000 to 5,000 Oddfellows from all over the state of New York come to Poughkeepsie. So they had one in 1913, and it was this is the 87th annual session held in Poughkeepsie, New York, Independent Order of Oddfellows. And how do you do something like this? Well, you get the Dutchess Oddfellows District, the 12 lodges. They're the ones that play the host for the thing. And it's really complicated. They have parades and all kinds of stuff. And it was held at the old Nelson House, right? And this is from, I think, around 1910. And then here's a matchbook cover picture of it, the new improved one. It looks like maybe something from maybe the 1940s, the old Nelson House. So that was, and in 1913, they had the main session in the National Guard Armory that's now a Seventh-day Adventist church, a Hispanic Spanish Seventh-day Adventist church. But so that was the auditorium that they had. And they would come in on the train or come in on a boat, right? And then they'd have these big parades and so on. And this is an Oddfellows parade in Poughkeepsie.
Wow.
The picture's not very good. I'd like to find the original of this, but they had streetcars in Poughkeepsie at the time. They ripped up the streetcars in all the cities in the Northeast so they could use the steel to fight the Japanese and Hitler, right? I mean, the streetcars, they would have been, you know, I lived in Springfield for a while, and you could get on a streetcar in Springfield, Mass, and go to Pittsfield or Boston or New Haven, Connecticut, or up to Vermont for like 10 cents and get transfers. I mean, amazing. So we had streetcars all the time. So here they are, the Oddfellows marching. And again, 3,000 to 4,000 Oddfellows invade Poughkeepsie for 3 or 4 days for the grand session. And who do you think the opening speaker was? The keynote speaker. Let me see, what's his name? Under Secretary of the Navy, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Yeah, he was Under Secretary of the Navy. And he is an Oddfellow, right? FDR joined all kinds, he was also a Mason, and he joined all kinds of things. But he was a member of Park Lodge right here in Poughkeepsie, right here in Hyde Park, right up the road here, right? And he was appointed Undersecretary of Navy in March of 1913, so now it's August of 1913, before World War I, okay? So he's only been in office for a little while. And so he's the keynote speaker, and he talks, and his speech is printed in the newspaper here, and his speech basically says, Odd Fellowship is a wonderful organization, it's a fraternal organization, it builds community ties, and you know, he's right about that, okay? And here he is, Undersecretary of Navy, and I like this one. Franklin D. Roosevelt, Assistant Secretary of the Navy, who was wholehearted in his job. I'm gonna throw up. So he really liked being secretary. And Josephus Daniels was the Secretary of Navy, and he was like a drunken lout from Missouri or someplace. So FDR got to basically do all the work. And he really liked being Undersecretary. He's got a Navy thing. If you go to the house over there, you know, in Hyde Park, he's got like old Navy pictures hanging up all over the place. So he really liked the Navy a lot. And here's a picture from the time. So he would have looked like this. And he was 31 years old in 1913 when he gave his speech here in Poughkeepsie. And I love this one. The Mary Powell, you've heard of this before, right? Steamboat, right? The Queen of the Hudson. They had a special run from the city, and they brought 1,200 Oddfellows from New York City up to Poughkeepsie and dropped them off, and they marched, and then they had the grand session. What a great day. This is a fan. I would give anything to do this, you know? And what did FDR do? He took the presidential yacht to escort the Mary Powell up the Hudson River. I'm impressed. And here's the boat, the USS Dolphin. And so this boat escorted the Mary Powell up the Hudson River for the Oddfellows Convention in 1913. This is a fantastic thing. Now, one of the key speakers is this guy. Okay, so let me go ahead. Who is this? He wrote historical Rhinebeck echoes of 2 centuries. This is Howard H. Morris. Howard H. Morris. Okay, so if you read Rhinebeck history like me, that's the book to get. Okay, so who's Howard Morris anyway? He was from Rhinebeck, and he was an attorney. He was a Democrat, and in 1876, it's Rutherford B. Hayes, Republican, against who? Come on, worthless. You people don't know this. Samuel J. Tilden, governor of New York. He was a Democrat. Who won the election? Are you sure? It's one of those elections. It was tightly contested. And Samuel J. Tilden got more votes, but I think it came to Florida, you know, like we think that this is only something, a recent development. So they had a commission to go and to settle the dispute. And the dispute was, Hayes is going to be the president, he's looking to do 1 term, Tilden loses. So that way they don't have a Democrat. Remember the Civil War is really Republicans against Democrats, right? So no Tilden as president. And Morris was a Democrat, and he was personal friends with Samuel J. Tilden. He ends up living down by Tarrytown, and he's an attorney for somebody you might have heard of before, John D. Rockefeller. So he did very well. So he gives a speech, he's an Oddfellow, he gave the speech here in Poughkeepsie in 1913. This is a huge deal. He's like a rock star. Like everyone would have known who he was. He's very, very famous in New York politics. And And so he writes his book about Rhinebeck. It's actually a very useful book. And he's buried at the Rhinebeck Cemetery, and it says soldier. He was an officer in the 128th New York, and he's very well to do. He made a lot of money as a lawyer, very successful lawyer, and active in Democrat Party politics. All right, now, what's this? This is up in Saugerties again. I'll do this in 2 seconds here. And Saugerties Lodge is called the William H. Raymond Lodge, number 59. And each lodge, they would produce these ribbons, for different occasions. There's a membership ribbon. You can buy this stuff on eBay. It's really sad. People, their grandfather or something was in Oddfellows and they sell the stuff, It's like, well, join the Oddfellows so you get to know your grandfather, like what he was really doing at these meetings, So here we are. All right. Well, who is William H. Raymond? Well, he's a Medal of Honor recipient. You don't really win it, during the Civil War. And he was a member of the 108th New York Volunteer Regiment. And where did they fight? Well, all of these battles. I mean, just think about that. And this is a common thing. These regiments, the 128th, the 150th, they fought in like all these battles. Imagine that, I mean, one would be bad enough, Gettysburg, Fredericksburg, all the way down to Sailor's Creek. That's the last battle. So he was in all that. All right, Oddfellows. All right, now there was another one held in 1932. Okay, now I have a photocopy here, and I will donate this to the Hyde Park Historical Society. You can stick this in your archives. This is a souvenir program for the 1932 Grand Lodge held in Poughkeepsie again. So so this is kind of interesting. We'll pass it around, I guess, afterwards. So this one is the 106th annual meeting. And when you read out, okay, so they issue a medal. So this is a medal that goes with it. It was the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. So they issued a medal in 1932 for that. And Harry T. Briggs was the convention grand chairman, and he's from Park Lodge. He's buried at the Crum Elbow Cemetery, and he had a large farm, I guess, out here. And he was an active community person, and they thought enough of him to make him the grand chairman of the convention, which is a huge, huge responsibility. There he is. And here's his tombstone at the Crum Elbow Cemetery. And he was also a Freemason. So you see this all the time, where they're Oddfellows and Masons. So a lot of times they have dual memberships. But we're interested in Oddfellows here tonight. Died in 1857. Now, who spoke at the 1932 Oddfellows meeting? Well, let me see. Franklin D. Roosevelt. Okay, it's August of 1932. What happened in 1932 in November? Yeah, so he won in 32, 36, 40, and 44, okay? So he's running for president. You think he's kind of busy? Yeah, but he found time to come and speak to the Oddfellows Grand Lodge. And when you read this souvenir brochure from 1932, right? Okay. I'm all ready to read about Great Depression stuff, because when I have backgrounds in economics, I'm interested in the causes of Great Depressions and so on. Well, there's not a word in here about the Great Depression, which is really remarkable when you think about it. Again, they're like focusing on being together and having a great meeting, and they just sort of like ignored the Great Depression. There's a little thing in here about how strong the banks in Poughkeepsie are, but other than that, there's no reference at all to the Great Depression. So Franklin Roosevelt spoke, and what's the difference between 1913 and 1932 for Roosevelt? You don't know? Yeah, he got polio in 1922, right? So that's kind of interesting, right? And so in the middle of the campaign, and who else spoke? Hamilton Fish III. What an interesting guy. This guy is really interesting. He's from Orange County and Putnam County, and in 1932, he told his wife, hold your nose and vote for Roosevelt, right? Because he hated Hoover, right? He hated Hoover more than he hated Roosevelt. And he went on to be a brutal, devastating critic of FDR and the New Deal. He hated him, right? And he spent 20 years in Congress and so on. But here, they're meeting as Oddfellows, so they don't get into like politics. in Masonic and Oddfellows organizations, you don't talk about religion. You don't say something like, I'm a Lutheran and it's a superior religion. Now, you don't say that, you know, and you don't say, you know, well, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. Let's get in a fight over that. No, there's no politics and no religion because you're meeting as brothers, right? So these two met as brothers at this 1932 meeting, which I think is really interesting. And, you know, I'll have to come back sometime and do a talk on Hamilton Fish. What an interesting character. You know, he went to Harvard University, graduated in 1910. He was a 6'4", he's my size, except heavy, big. He was a football, like, all-American athlete. And when World War I broke out, yeah, guess what? He enlists, right? And what do? They gave him this. His regiment is the National Guard, the Harlem Hellfighters. You've heard of them, right? Well, what is it about them? Well, the regular army, they don't like black people. So Hamilton Fish said, oh, these guys are really great. So Hamilton Fish, he went to bat and he led the Harlem Hellfighters. And they wouldn't fight in American units. So they put these dudes under, yeah, here it is. They had to wear French helmets. They fought under French officers. And they were unbelievable. They were devastating. The Germans were afraid of them. Harlem Hellfighters are called. And Hamilton Fish, he's the real deal, you know. What did Roosevelt do in World War I? Well, he was sort of at the back, you know, he's Undersecretary of Navy, so he was like sort of in the background, you know. Hamilton Fish is in the trenches here, right? Very interesting man. And what else? So in 1932, they had a cruise, right, on the steamer, the Alexander Hamilton. And the cruise, you go to the Poughkeepsie dock and you go on a cruise down to West Point and back again. I imagine that Roosevelt made a few phone calls to get into West Point and go on a tour of it. I'd like to go on this tour right now, wouldn't you? You know? Also in here, they had stuff for the women to do, and they had a motor tour of Poughkeepsie. It's 11 miles and all the highlights of Poughkeepsie. You drive around and you see the YMCA and the Hadrian's Library, and you know, it must have been quite a thing. And here's the Alexander Hamilton. I think it was, they used it for a while in the Great Depression. It's a bad time to start a new steam line. It was built in 1927, and I think it ended up burning and sinking off the coast of New Jersey. What a fate, you know? I'd rather be burned and sunk anywhere but New Jersey. Not a good place to be. The poor Alexander Hamilton ended up in New Jersey. Not a good thing. Now, another thing they did is this. Did you know about this place here? Woodcliff Pleasure Park. Started in 1927. You have to talk to old Poughkeepsie people because no one seems to know about this. This was like a water park before they came up with the idea of water parks. They had like a gigantic wave pool and all kinds of, and people would come up from the city on the Dayliner and they would go to the, Poughkeepsie was like a place, a destination where you wanted to be, which is really interesting, I think, right? Mostly I try to avoid Poughkeepsie, but you know, back in those days, it's the place to be. And look at this, isn't this great? I'd like to walk around, look at those swans in that lake there, what a great thing. And now that's the place, that Marist College is you know, I say tear down Marist College and bring back a water park. That's what I would do. The kids would learn more walking around the water park with me than they would at college anyway. All right, this is my cemetery, St. Paul's, Wurtemberg. This is, he's a member of Park Lodge, and he's buried, and he has a Oddfellows grave marker. And George Traver, you know, in my cemetery, I have Travers, Ackwards, and Cokingham's, Ackwards, and Travers, Ackwards, but that's what's in my cemetery. So George Traver, I don't know anything about him other than he died in 1910, and he was a member of Park Lodge in Hyde Park. It's kind of neat. Again, these are the Oddfellows symbols here. Again, this is the Union Cemetery. Okay, you can see the 3 rings here. 3 rings and a mason. Okay, that's the back side of it. So that's Emory Tabor by 1942. Again, here's the 3 links and the all-seeing eye. So if you walk into cemeteries like I do, I always look at tombstones and so on. The 3 links means Oddfellows. And here, this is another one, a square and compasses, and so this person was an Oddfellow and a Freemason. Let's do some famous famous Oddfellows here for a little bit. I guess I can go right down the line. Winston Churchill, he was one. U.S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, William McKinley, Warren G. Harding. You know, Warren G. Harding's my favorite president. Yeah, what did he do? He like played poker and drank bourbon in the White House, and he had girlfriends on the side. That's what he did. This is a perfect thing. Just leave me alone. Play poker in the White House and don't do anything. What a great man, right? And then Frank Roosevelt. Oh, this is Skylar Colfax. He wrote the Ritual and started the Rebeccas, which is the women's group. Yeah, pretty neat. And these are some famous Oddfellows. Wyatt Earp. He was an Oddfellow. And Albert Pike, put a little red flag by him. I'll talk about him in about 2 seconds. He'll go away. U.S. Grant, it was an Oddfellow. Henry Allen, each time on both sides considered himself beaten, and he would continue to the tax market. So that's U.S. Grant. Very interesting man. There's a woman, a professor at West Point, and a friend of mine knows her, and she wrote Grant's Personal Memoirs, which is a book that everyone needs to read. She wrote the annotated edition. It came out about 5 years ago. She's a West Point professor. The problem when you read Grant's memoirs, it's hard to follow what he's talking about, but the little footnotes in that talks about, who these people are, and, very, very useful. And what did they say? Grant's memoirs are one of the best memoirs ever written. So you need to read it if you're not interested in the Civil War. So that's U.S. Grant. And another guy I really like, William Jennings Bryan. What an interesting character. Very interesting man. Of course, everyone hates him because of, Inherit the Wind. He was the Scopes monkey trial guy. But he is really, if you're interested in politics, 1896, the populists took over the Democrat Party. And he's a really important transition. He ran for president 3 times and was defeated 3 times. But really and when World War I, 1914 to 1918, he was Secretary of Navy. And Wilson wanted to get in to help England, and William Jennings Bryan said no, and he resigned being Secretary of State because he's an absolute pacifist. Very interesting man. I mean, sometimes, the people that didn't win the presidency are more interesting than the ones that did win, and he's certainly one of them, and he was an odd fellow. Right, William Jennings Bryan. Albert Pike, okay, who's he? Albert Pike is the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite Southern Jurisdiction. If you go to Washington, D.C., the House of the Temple, he's buried in the wall, right? He had a statue. He was a brigadier general in the Confederate Army, and during the Black Lives Matters riot, they tore down his statue, right? Well, they're going to move it to Oklahoma and have it in a museum. But he's a very profound thinker, very interesting man. And he was an Oddfellow before he became before he became a Freemason. He was an Oddfellow, and he was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and he moved to Fort Smith, Arkansas. Very important man. And who's this guy? You know who John Anthony Quitman is? You don't? You don't know that? He's born in Rhinebeck, okay? And you know the Old Stone Church, the Quitman House? All right, that's his father is Frederick Henry Quitman from Hollow University. He's a Lutheran minister in Curacao, and he was going back after a slave revolt down there. He's going to go back to Holland, and they said, we need help up in Rhinebeck. He comes up to Rhinebeck, and he stays there like 30 years. So Quitman is born in Rhinebeck, John Anthony Quitman, okay? And so this is the Quitman. See that sign there? They took the sign down, right? Yeah, because the Black Lives Riot stuff, he went from Rhinebeck, born in Rhinebeck, to Hartwick College. Then he went to Chillicothe, Ohio to become a lawyer. Then he went to Natchez, Mississippi, because you want to make money in the 1840s and 50s, you go to the South. And I tell my college kids, the boys all the time, forget love. What you want to do is to find a woman that's a lot older than you and has a lot of money. Marry that woman right now. Marry that woman. Well, that's what Quitman did. And so he married this woman who's connected down there. He ends up owning 400 slaves and 4 plantations. He became like unbelievably rich. He became governor of Mississippi, senator for Mississippi, and he was also a brigadier general in the Mexican-American War. You know the Marine Corps hymn? What is that? From the halls of Montezuma. What's the halls of Montezuma? They're singing about John Anthony Quitman from Rhinebeck, born in Rhinebeck. That's him. Here he is. It's the battle, they stormed the fortress at Chapultepec, and he got his boot stuck in the mud. So his boot came off in the mud, and he stormed the fortress with one boot on and one boot off. That's him. He was 6'4". You're no booth. And when they sing about the halls of light, that's him. He was awarded the Congressional Sword for his actions at the Battle of Chapultepec. That's like the Congressional Medal of Honor back then. He was an amazing individual. And the All Mexico movement, okay? What's this? He's from Mississippi. What's his goal? He wants to take over Mexico and Cuba and the Caribbean because he thinks slavery is probably okay to do. So he wants to make the Confederacy more powerful than who? The New England people, right? So it's called the All Mexico movement. And what does he say? He says, if the Mexicans refuse the peace, then perhaps the only alternative will be to make this beautiful and rich country a portion of the United States. This would be rather than build a wall, just statehood for Mexico. The John Anthony Quitman solution, the Panama Canal, that could be the border, and you take over and send social workers down there, get rid of the drug cartels. I like Mexico. My daughter just got back from Puerto Vallarta. I was talking to her on the phone, you know. She had a great time down there. I'd like to go there. That should be part of the United States, right? So that's John Anthony Quitman's solution to the problem. You got to admit, the guy could have gone on to something here. I speak to you boldly, as we were on the Texas question. Hold it to this country. Its destiny is ours. Like he wanted to keep. And who was against keeping Mexico as a state? New England people. Why? Because they were against the war, the Mexican-American War to begin with. You know, Henry David Thoreau and Emerson and all those people, right? Because they didn't want the South to have more congressmen than the North did, right? So fascinating. So Quitman is born in Rhinebeck, right? And they tore down the sign. Again, do you have to like him? No. But he's still born in Rhinebeck, right? And you should know that. The history is not just the good things that happen. No, it's the bad stuff that happens, and you use it in a teaching moment, and you say, well, that's kind of interesting, right? So he was born in Rhinebeck. So now they changed it to something nebulous, you know, like they had a big debate about it, and they took the sign down, and, you know, it's Rhinebeck. Here he is, John Anthony Quitman. What happened to this guy anyway? He died in 1857. If he would have lived, he would have had the command of the Confederate Army. He would have had Robert E. Lee's job. That's how highly regarded. Usually he's regarded as like a military genius. And he went to Washington, D.C. He's a congressman at this point. He did all kinds of things, judge and governor. This is the inauguration of James Buchanan as president, right, elected in 1856. And he stayed in the National Hotel. What happens to people who stay at the National Hotel? You get National Hotel disease, right? And they think it's something about like raw sewage getting into the water, and it's like a really awful, the guy died an awful death. And what do you do for people that have intestinal problems back then? You give them opium. So it like killed his like necrosis, and like he like rotted from the inside out. So he died, and again, if he would have lived, he would have had Robert E. Lee's job, which is fascinating. Again, he's born in Rhinebeck, right? Well, when he died, Albert Pike the Oddfellow, you probably thought I forgot about talking about the Oddfellows, right? But I'm not talking about it, right? So he writes I don't have the quote up here. It's something like, it's a famous Albert Pike quote. It's things we do in life are bringing immortality to us. It's some lofty saying like that. He wrote that was read in the Congressional Record on the death of John Anthony Quitman. So it's like him like doing an obit or a tribute, a eulogy to John Anthony Quitman. Very famous Albert Pike quote. I'm going down the home stretch here. All right, so Park Lodge, FDR again is a member of the Park Lodge, and they awarded him his 25-year pin in 1940. And so the boys in Park Lodge went to his house. Here he is on the front porch, and they awarded him his pin. And FDR said something that was really moving. He said, "You visited me in 1922 when I polio." What a beautiful thing. He always remembered that. And that's what it's all about. Again, you don't need money. You need a brother or a friend to help you when you're sick, even if you're the president or assistant secretary of Navy. So FDR never forgot that. So a very beautiful tribute to him. And again, it's a crummy picture. There must be an original of this somewhere. And here it is, Friendship, Love, and Truth, that beautiful art. And about maybe around the year 2000, the Rebeccas and the Oddfellows are now merged into one organization, and so the Grand Master of Odd Fellowship in the United States is a woman, right? Michelle Heckert, and she's doing a nice job, right? So that's kind of a neat thing, I think. Masonry still has, men and women, but the Oddfellows merged together. I think that's a pretty good thing. My daughter Jenna joined the Oddfellows Washington Irving Lodge, so that was quite a thing. So, I have 3 daughters. So I always wish I had sons to bring to Masonic and meeting and Boy Scouts. No, instead I have the blessing of 3 daughters. That means I have to go to the bathroom down at the church, not in the house, right? It's a bad thing, right? So, all right, Oddfellows, 3 rings. All right, now let's close this thing up. This is called the, at the end of every Oddfellows meeting, you say this, it's called the valediction, okay? It's printed, or you can look at it up here. Ready? And this story tells you what they're all about. I am an Oddfellow. I believe in the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, and I believe in friendship, love, and truth as basic guides to the ultimate destiny of all mankind. I believe in my home, my church or temple, my lodge, and my community deserves my best work, my modest pride, my earnest faith, and my deepest loyalty as I perform my duty to visit the sick, to relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan. And as I work with others to build a better world, because in spirit and in truth, I am and must always be grateful to my Creator, faithful to my country, and fraternal to my fellow man. I am an Oddfellow. And the closing ode is sung to my country, 'tis of thee. Members, we thank you all for this your friendly call, our hearts to cheer. May faith her influence shed, and heaven its wings outspread, to guard each brother's head from pity, pain, and fear. Good night, and as you go, bear hence and fully grow, stand on your breast. The steel of friendship pure, and love through life endure, and truth which still secures with honor rest. That's how you end an Oddfellows meeting. And I am and always will be an Oddfellow. Please be seated. I do one knock here. Okay, it's question time. Yes, go ahead.
Why do they like to be called odd?
Well, again, I explained this at the beginning with Freemasons. There's operative Masons and speculative Masons. So Masonry comes from guild Masons that worked on cathedrals and so on. No, well, so that's it's limited to people there are stonemasons, right? And Oddfellows were started in England in little towns where you had the butcher, the baker, the tanner, the cooper, and they didn't have enough members to start the Coopers Guild, so instead it's the Oddfellows Guild. And it's a fraternal thing to help, so it's like a miscellaneous category. Yeah, which is kind of neat, I think the Rotary Club is a thing where you have to be like one member of each profession in town, like one funeral director, one, so it's a similar idea.
Like odds and ends.
Yeah. So and of course people have a good time, that Oddfellows are odd and all kinds of stuff, and we are different than normal people, I'd probably say, trying to make the world a better place rather than trying to burn it down, right? So, any other questions? No questions?
How big? You said you had a lot of people that came to these big conventions.
Yes.
I mean, was there like a chapter in almost every community?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah, in 1920, there were more Oddfellows than there were Masons. If you go to little towns in upstate New York, you go downtown, usually there's a big Oddfellows building there. And now it's like, maybe, I think New York has maybe 4,000 Oddfellows left. They're pretty big in Pennsylvania and Ohio, but it's like decimated, And it's because people that are my age don't join things, and people that are younger than me really don't join things. And people that are younger than them really, really don't join things. They don't go to church, they don't go to anything, there's no synagogue, nothing like that, So, I was talking to a Jewish friend of mine in a synagogue. He complains that, I don't know, the young people just don't, it's like, hey, cry me a river, it's the same thing, They say, well, Junior, what do you want to do today? I'm going to play on the traveling soccer team. You know, so they don't have time to go to the church or the synagogue, and then they wonder why the kids are demons running around town, you know? Yeah, so, yes, go ahead.
You have to wonder how they,
I do wonder.
how they took it when Laurel and Hardy came out with their famous movie, Sons of the Desert.
Fantastic
Kind
movie.
of making fun of that.
Yeah.
You wonder how they took it.
Stanley was a member of, he was a Shriner, and he's a Mason, and Ollie wasn't. So the idea for Sons of the Desert comes from the Shriners conventions. It's fantastic. What a great thing. I mean, and I'm a Shriner too. I'm in everything, right? So yeah, we laugh at that because it's hilarious. It's really funny stuff.
We do, but you wonder how they took it.
Oh no, they love it. You kidding me? Yeah, it's great stuff because they know it's all true. And like you tell the wife, you know, you're not going to that convention in Poughkeepsie. Oh no, I have a bad back. I have to go to Honolulu and recover. And then all of a sudden, they see you on the newsreel in Poughkeepsie marching with FDR, right? Yeah, believe me, I've gotten in trouble with this stuff a lot. You know, Mrs. Isaacs is back there. She's making a list right now. I'm in big trouble, right? And then go, yes?
What was the Rebecca's association with the Oddfellows?
Yeah, the Oddfellows were for men, and Rebecca's are for women. And the Rebecca's were almost stronger than the Oddfellows were. And maybe your grandmother or somebody was a member. Well, your mother?
Was it Rebecca?
Yeah, it was a huge thing. And you know, they were like pillars of the community. I mean, you know, it's civic society. People, everybody knows everybody, and you know. What happens at a meeting like this? You say things like, hey, what are they doing over there? They're building something over there. Like, you learn about what's going on in your town by the stuff before and after the meeting. So it's very important to talk to your neighbors, right? So yeah, no, the Rebecca's are, they have Rebecca's homes, you know, yeah. I mean, they really take the charitable stuff seriously. You know, they're remarkable organizations, you know. Yes?
Because this wasn't, I don't think it's.
Please speak up. Oh, you're dead? This is
Yeah.
all night long. You ruined my arm. I wave my arms around when I talk.
Because this was a fraternal organization.
Yes.
Was there any possibility of discrimination?
All right.
I know it served a purpose back then with the
Yeah.
population was 4,000 or 5,000 in Hyde Park
Yeah.
in 1940.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's 21,000
Yes.
and there's a big minority population.
Yes.
So how would it work now?
All right. Let me answer the question here. First of all, if you apply to be a Mason or an Oddfellow or a member of the Moose or any lodge like this, they come and they talk to you and your family. Mostly they want to find out if your wife is open to the idea of one meeting a month, right? And then your petition is read out in the lodge, and if you're a person of good character, they vote on you. And if you get a black ball, it means you're out. So it only takes one vote, and you're told before you vote, if you don't like the person, that's not why you vote against them. They have to be a morally right person, and you know, like a good person, in other words. Why? Because you're giving out fraternal benefits. So if somebody's a con man, you know, a felon or something,
Or black?
no, well, I'll talk about that in a second, okay? So the idea is you have to be of moral character in order to receive the benefits because it's accountability, okay? Now let's talk about the race issue. In Masonry, there's Prince Hall Masonry and there's regular Masonry. Well, in Odd Fellowship, there's black Masons. They're called what, the General Grand Order. Well, they don't want to merge with the Odd Fellows. They like their own thing, and especially in the South, where the AME Zion pastor is also he's the noble grand of the local Odd Fellows Lodge, and it's like the men's club of the AME Zion Church. It's not that, you know, and are there African American members of Masonry? Yeah, especially from the Caribbean in New York. Like they love Masonry. So some of the best Masons I know are, you know, African American or Caribbean or whatever, you know. But you know, back 100 years ago, it was a problem because they had segregation all over the place. It was a national affliction, and hopefully we've gotten over that now. you know, because it's one of the principles, you know, you're supposed to have the brotherhood of man. But, you know, but the African American Odd Fellowship is probably stronger than, I don't know, regular Odd Fellowship. And same thing with Prince Hall. Prince Hall Masonry is a big deal. If you're a Prince Hall Mason, it's like the dues are really high, and they have really high expectations, and they do great ritual work. And, you know, I wish we'd merge with them. We need them, right? So does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
He spoke about ham fish
Yes.
during the war. What did he start in 1919 in Paris? What did he help start?
Well, American Legion, of course. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love both of them.
I had the honor of speaking at the 100th anniversary of Saugerties American Legion. And I talked about the history of American Legion. And I mean, it's a really outstanding group. So, and again, are you having trouble getting members? Why is that, I wonder? Because people my age and younger don't join things.
Right.
And it makes you crazy, right? And I don't know what the solution is other than just, you know, keep talking up the advantages of it. I mean, the Legion has done remarkable things for veterans. And, you know, the VFW before that, and the great GAR before that. The GAR, I mean, they really, you know, they really protected the Union war veterans. I mean, they did a great job. So, yeah, Hamilton Fish was he was one of the founders of the American Legion. He was a tough dude.
Last year in May, we visited a building, a Persian building
Really?
in Paris.
Wow.
You know what it is now?
What?
Department store.
Really?
It still has the American Legion logo over it.
Would you have like a meeting in there or anything?
No, we visited Normandy and we were
Nice.
staying in Paris, and we told our tour guide we wanted to go to, actually, we met with Post 1 in Paris, the last existing post,
It's still going?
yes.
Wow.
And they told us about Pershing Hall, and we went there and we took pictures. But
Did you write it up in the American Legion magazine? That's something the boys would like to read.
Took pictures of it. It's sold off to the department store.
Yeah. Well, it's still, I mean, at least the building's still up,
Still
right?
there,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry?
President Harding,
Yes.
okay, he was, okay, number one, he was the only president that owned a newspaper
That's true.
in
Marion, Ohio, yeah.
Marion, Ohio. And he was a member of the, let me get this right, he was a member of the Masons.
Yes, he's a Mason and a Shriner and a Grotto member. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all three.
Yeah.
Okay, because this year is a special year with the Masons, and I know two of them from Poughkeepsie,
Yeah.
and the site manager of the Warren G. Harding site
Fantastic.
she's coming to Hyde Park.
Really? When?
Poughkeepsie area in the summer.
Oh, I'm gonna have to,
So they
I'm gonna have to come to that.
Okay.
Like I said, he's my favorite president. The guy, this is a fantastic
yes.
thing. Play the poker, drink the bourbon, have the girlfriend,
Yeah.
leave me alone. What a great president. Yeah, probably more than that.
Yeah.
But you know, he probably is a humble man, didn't want to brag.
But
I think I would have liked Warren G. Harding.
And he didn't do that much in his newspaper about himself.
Yeah,
And he just gossiped and everything.
yeah, no, he's a good guy, you know? Yeah, Warren G. Harding.
Well, so he was a member of both the Masons.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of times the politicians would join like everything, you know? But I think FDR, he was a Mason and a Grotto member, but I think he actually took Odd Fellowship seriously. I think he was really grateful for them, for visiting him, you know? And he never forgot, and he spoke twice at their Grand Lodge. I mean, that's pretty neat.
Well, if you give me your information, I'll give it to the site
Yeah.
manager.
I mean, I usually thought, I probably am a friend of Warren G. Harding on Facebook, so I'm sure that'll be. He hasn't answered me back in a long time, since 1923, right? Yeah. And of course, that brought Calvin Coolidge into the president. He's another great man. You know Amity Schlaze, who she is? She's on the Coolidge, library with the house or whatever, and she wrote an outstanding book on Calvin Coolidge. Amity Schlaze, outstanding. She's spoken at the FDR Library before. She did a lot of research down here.
We're doing a course on 4 men who ran for president, but never made it.
Yeah.
And William Jennings Bryan is one
He's,
of them.
he's really interesting.
Yes,
He's a really interesting guy.
yeah. We
Yeah.
go right up through Warren G. Hart, let's see, Al Smith is next.
Yeah, Al Smith is another interesting man.
Okay, then Thomas Dewey.
Yeah.
The only
Right down here.
presidential election in Dutchess County,
Uh-huh.
FDR and
I know.
Dewey. And then, the last one, we picked, a group of us picked, Barry Goldwater.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And, my husband and I are both ham radio operators.
Uh-huh.
He was a ham radio operator.
Really?
And his station is still going, okay? Because he started doing phone patches for the soldiers over in Vietnam
Yeah.
to talk to their parents and friends.
Wonderful.
One call, 15 minutes.
Well, like Goldwater, I've been accused of being a ham myself, so I can relate to this.
And why don't you like the microphone?
Yeah, I don't like, no, I don't like this is why I like my little church. I just stand up and talk, and the acoustics are perfect, and, you know, and the CIA, I just shout at the kids, right, eye level, you know. Yeah, I don't like microphones. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes?
Quick question. Your lodge up in Saugerties.
Yes.
You created a new one.
Yep.
But there was an old one.
Yes.
Why didn't you just
The old one went defunct, I think, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and it's better just to start a new one.
is that what I
Yeah.
wasn't sure whether you
And
keep the same
Grand
number?
Lodge and
or-
New York people were shocked because they'd never done this before. They didn't know what to do. So well, we got it done, and we wanted to have a new name, and we got a nice number.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
Alright.
So it's kind of fun. It's a 19th century thing, you know. I'm born 100 years too late. So, anyone else have any questions? Okay, I guess.
Thank you.